All men, inasmuch as they are not liberated from the bondage of time, follow the downward path of history, whether they know it or not, and whether they like it or not. Few indeed thoroughly like it, even at our epoch, let alone in happier ages, when people read less and thought more. Few follow it unhesitatingly, without throwing some time or other a sad glance toward the distant lost paradise into which they know, in their deeper consciousness, that they are never to enter. The paradise of perfection in time, a thing so remote that the earliest people of whom we know remembered as only a dream. Yet they follow the fatal way. They obey their destiny, that resigned submission to the terrible law of decay, that acceptance of the bondage of time by creatures who dimly feel that they could be free from it, but who find it too hard to try free themselves, who know beforehand that they would never succeed, even if they did try, is at the bottom of that incurable unhappiness of man, deplored again and again in Greek tragedies, and long before these were written. Man is unhappy because he knows, because he feels, in general, that the world in which he lives, and of which he is a part, is not what it should be, not what it could be, not what in fact it was at the dawn of time, before decay set in. He cannot wholeheartedly accept the world as his, especially not accept the fact that it is going from bad to worse, and be glad. However much he may try to be a realist, and snatch from destiny whatever he can, when he can, still an invincible yearning for the better remains at the bottom of his heart. He cannot, in general, stomach the world as it is. And be glad. In heralding the most widespread massacre, I believe that war is preparing mystic spheres for the apparition of great ideals. Where the charnel house dissolves, joy will be born in ferment. Where the weight of mortality sinks down, the soul's freedom will be uplifted. The greater the offering, the greater will be the wonder and the miracle. And be glad. War is preparing mystic spheres for the apparition of great ideals. Where the charnel house dissolves, joy will be born in ferment. Where the weight of mortality sinks down, the soul's freedom will be uplifted. The greater the offering, the greater will be the wonder and the miracle. Where the charnel house dissolves, joy will be born in ferment. Be glad. Where the weight of mortality sinks down, the soul's freedom will be uplifted. The greater the offering, the greater will be the wonder and the miracle. Where the weight of mortality sinks down, the soul's freedom will be uplifted. The greater the offering, the greater will be the wonder and the miracle. And be glad.
There's a natural law of the universe, and this is everything that is around us, everything that we do, or at least it's supposed to be like that. Nowadays it's not, and I'll explain in this video what I mean by that. Here's an example. About 9 months ago I was sitting with two human beings on a bed and the laptop in the middle, and we were watching some music videos, live videos and such. The thing is that I was feeling this feeling of wrong. I was sensing something, but I didn't fully understand what it was. Now, months later, I do understand it. I felt, or rather sensed, that it was simply unnatural what we were doing. The thing about computers and such is, and with all of this technology, it's partly a good thing, but there's some things about it that are bad. And for example, about photography and filming things, you know that I like to do that, but at the same time, if you watch films of nature or anything else that is not in your everyday life, that you don't experience yourself, or photographs of beautiful places as such, which you will never go to, the problem about it is that it's just not the same thing. That may sound obvious, but is it really? Have you ever thought about it? Because seeing something through a computer is something completely else. It's just vision. You cannot sense anything else, or you cannot hear anything through photographs. Yes, you can hear things through films, but it's still not the same thing. There's a whole different atmosphere, something way deeper, and that you cannot feel through the computer. So what these things do is make nature unnatural, and that's a huge deal. I used to watch a lot of Hollywood films, you know that, and in many of them, what you see is a family house, and in the living room there is a screen, and this is really seen in many films of nature, as in landscapes or some kind of waterfalls and all kinds of stuff, and it repeats itself. What could this mean? Well, seeing as we know who controls Hollywood, there could be more meanings to it. Here's my guesses, that in the future there will be no nature left, or anything natural, seeing as everything is now becoming unnatural. You can see that everything is being replaced by cement. Or people will be too lazy, possibly, or more likely too scared to go outside. And I can imagine some things that could happen that could make people feel this way. It's possible. And the thing about it is, when I walk through the forest at night, or let's just say when it's dark, I know that the people would most likely be scared of me if they would see me. There's just nothing there. Sure, it is possible that some maniac is somewhere in the bushes, but if that would happen, it would just happen. I'm not going to live in fear. All I see when I walk there is beauty. So this is why I cannot exactly decide what to do, because in a sense there is no real point in making films, because you cannot really help anybody, but you can. It's partly good and partly bad. There's no other way for me to put it, because you know that the films of Tsai Ming-Liang, as I've said, have helped me a lot. But it's just different for everybody. I get pleasure from helping people when it clicks for people and they see things differently. This is what art is, to put simply. You show people things through different perspectives. Watch my video Art and Popularity to understand more about art and what it means. if you grow up in an unnatural world, it will result in unnatural feelings. That should be obvious. Because I talked about this in my past videos, how joy isn't really joy, it's something else, it's the replacement of what you're supposed to feel. This is the unnatural stuff, it's the unnatural emotions and feelings. That's what happens if you grow up in an unnatural world. It's not that bad yet, but it's getting worse. At the same time, everything that is, you heard me right, as in my phone, which I don't have on me right now, if it is here, it should be considered natural because it was created by what creation gave us. But, of course, some people would say this technology and things like that come from a different planet, as in aliens and such, or people will say it's the devil's work. You don't hear this so often anymore, but there were people who were serious about this, and I don't blame them at all. I understand how it can seem to be the devil's work, because in a sense it is, except that you know my take on the Bible, so you get what I'm saying. There's something to it. That's what I'm saying. My take on it is basically that you can use anything as anything. In this world, the way it is, we can do anything with anything. There's no better way for me to put it. So just because something exists doesn't mean that naturally human beings want it or need it for something. There's all sides, many sides to everything, right? As in day and night and so on. You know this, I'm not going to talk about that. So this is just the way the world is. Of course, if you're unnatural, then you will go more for the unnatural stuff. Becoming awake basically means becoming more natural. It's partly that. Jerome from my RC said that I should give this example. It's interesting, there's likely something to it about people throwing things on the ground, because if you think about it, naturally everything that we eat, let's say a banana, you throw the peel, I believe it's called afterwards on the ground. You would, and it would decay. Nowadays with all the plastic, it's a different story. So we are told to put things in the bin, and that's not natural, but it's understandable why people tend to throw things on the ground and so, because if there would be no bins, which there weren't in the past, I would assume, at least not the way it is now. Sure, there could be something like that. People would throw it on the ground. It's obvious. I'm going to continue in a second. If your mood is affected by unnatural things, this is also a sign of being brainwashed, asleep, and so on. because as in money. And I had this too. I talked about this in my video layers. I'm sure that I was 90% less affected by it, but I already talked about this, so I won't repeat it, but I told you the reason why it still affected me. At least a little bit. But this is definitely something to think about. Also, if your mood is affected by weather, it is not some huge strange thing that shouldn't be that way, but to me it's sort of wrong, because this is what I talked about in my video Art and Popularity. It's about accepting everything as it is, and especially through art you can do this. So I can appreciate all kinds of weather, or yes, you get what I mean. Nowadays, when I sometimes go for very long walks, 8 hours or longer or something like that, I really enjoy it. But let's say 2 years ago, a bit longer, I wouldn't have even seen the point in doing it, because that's just how I was. If you would have asked me if I want to, I would have asked why, what's the point? And I was, some months ago, I looked at some pictures of myself, and there was this really beautiful sky, pink, reddish, yellow behind me. And I know that back then I didn't even notice it, and I was realizing how something was blocking my vision and all of my senses. And that's another thing about waking up that made me understand it very well.